Obamacare. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Stupid people are ruining America.
The president just wants to take care of you. He just doesn't think you're able to do it for yourself.
There's a very thin line between communism, progressivism, Marxism, socialism.
The empire will strike back.
You still don't know that this was political.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of America Our Way. I am your host, Dustin Hoyt. This week, there was something that came across my Facebook. I felt and feel that it's a good place to start. We're going to start today off with a laugh. Here is the Democrat distinguished lady from Houston making a complete fool of herself.
Woman from Texas.
I thank the chairman very much, and frankly, maybe I should offer a good thanks to the distinguished members of the majority, the Republicans, my chairman and others, for giving us an opportunity to have a deliberative constitutional discussion that reinforces the sanctity of this nation and how well it is that we have lasted some 400 years operating under a constitution that clearly defines what is constitutional and what is not.
400 years. 400 years. I didn't realize that the Constitution was 400 years old. I didn't know that. Did you know that? By my count, it was 227. So, by my count, that would mean Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and all the other founding fathers would not have been around to influence its creation. Wonder how that happened. The Constitution is 220 some odd years old, 226, 227, something in that range. And this moron is an elected official with real powers in Congress. The Congressional Black Caucus even nominated her for Department of Homeland Security Secretary of Homeland Security. They recommended her. Said she was an outstanding individual who knows a thing or two about it because she's from Houston. I can't even believe this. Well, that's not true. That's a lie. I believe it. She's a moron. I've known she's a moron for years. What I can't understand is how she keeps getting elected. Now, I've had this conversation with political scientists before, real political scientists, not the just political junkies like us, but I had this conversation with one of my professors, a doctorate in political science, and he said it's because when she's in office, she gets phone calls from constituents. Private first class wants to come home for Christmas, he's deployed, and she'll get him sent home. Or, so-and-so needs something special, and she'll make a phone call and get it for him. And so, even if she represents all that is wrong with Congress, people are okay with her because she did them a favor. That, and she comes from a heavily black district, and that's really all that they see. A black woman who went to really good schools, God knows how she graduated, doesn't even know how old the Constitution is, even though she took an oath to uphold it. Now, how in the hell are you going to take an oath to uphold a document you can't even figure out how old the thing is? I cannot understand how she hasn't been laughed out of Congress. I don't understand how she was even put up for leadership roles. I mean, there are so many smart people in this world, and she is a member of Congress? Good Lord. I need to run for Congress. Absolutely insane. Now, speaking of idiocy, there is another member of Congress who has decided to be the same sort of moron that Sheila Jackson Lee has shamed this country in being. That is Representative Charlie Rangel out of Harlem, New York City. Now, Representative Rangel said today that the building explosion, which happened in Harlem, was in fact Harlem's 9/11. This two apartment buildings / stores blew up in Harlem yesterday. Excuse me, it was yesterday. Blew up in Harlem from what they presume is a gas leak. They don't know it for a fact yet, so, I mean, we can't really say one way or the other. Probably going to come out and be a gas leak because the people complained about gas leak, and that's what happened. Something like 60 people injured. Only 5 people are dead. The numbers are still growing because there's missing people, but the fact of the matter is that does not even remotely compare to 9/11. And more importantly, Harlem is in New York City. 9/11 was Harlem's 9/11. I don't understand how we live in a country that elects people like this. I mean, I understand how some people can be fooled into believing flawed political ideologies. I get that. I understand how stupid people can flock to something really stupid. I completely understand that. I mean, it is really stupid, but I get it. And I get it because you've got people all over the country doing everything they can to spread incredibly stupid ideas. So I understand how some people believe that you can vote whatever you want into existence. I understand that some people think that majority rule it somehow makes it okay even if you're doing something wrong, or somehow makes something correct because majority people believe it. I understand how people can believe stupid things like that. That's a hard thing to break away from. That's a libertarian ideology coming into fruition when you break from that. Or an authoritarian one because you think you know better, etc. Be like, the green movement thinking they know better because the environment's more important than, whatever comforts or industrial advancements we have. Stuff like that. I understand how people can be that stupid because there's a whole lot of people that make a living and require that stupidity to be spread. I get that. What I do not understand is how people dumber than that make it into Congress. It blows my mind. You hear some of these dumb people in the state senates and the state, houses. You hear about those people. They exist, and that's because most people don't give 2 licks about state elections, which is sad, but it's true. But in the U.S. House of Representatives, how does this happen? How is it that thousands of people, tens of thousands, can come together and vote for a moron? I mean, it would be as if Vermin Supreme, or honestly, I think Vermin Supreme would probably do a better job. Your friendly neighborhood fascist, that guy.
My name is Vermin Supreme. I am a friendly fascist. I am a tyrant that you should trust, and you should let me run your life, because I too know what is best for you. Yes, I am a politician. I will promise you anything your little electorate heart desires, because you are my constituents. You are the informed voting public, and because I have no intention of keeping any promise that I make. Vote early, vote often. Remember, a vote for Vermin Supreme is a vote completely thrown away.
If you don't know who that guy is, he is fantastic. I love Vermin Supreme. He is a guy out of New Hampshire that basically throws the vote away all the time. He runs for president. He was a 2012 Democrat presidential candidate. He is hysterical. I love this. I'm going to play a little bit more because I freaking love this guy so much.
Do you still stand by your pledge made in 2008 to provide a pony for every American?
Yes, I do, sir. Free ponies for all Americans, one of the overlooked issues in America today.
I freaking love this guy. He keeps running for president, and he's never going to win, but he goes up there and he mocks political speech by making huge empty promises and then also saying, he's got like this whole platform on the dental police where he's like, this mandatory toothbrushing law is not about the dental police kicking in your door to make sure you've brushed. It's not even the government-issued toothpaste with a harmless addictive substance inside. And he goes on and on. It's fantastic. And he also does amazing things like this.
My name is Vermin. My name is Vermin. Vermin Supreme. My name is Vermin. My name is Vermin. My name is Vermin. Vermin. Vermin Supreme. And you can vote. And you can vote. And you can vote for me for president if you want to. And my name is Vermin. And okay.
See, I would actually write that guy's name in, and I would throw my vote away because he's awesome. And if he ever gets a substantial percentage of the vote, maybe politicians will start listening and understand that we're tired of their crap. I doubt it, but I still love that guy. You know what? Actually, one more thing.
Jesus told me to make Randall Terry gay with magic sprinkle dust.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supreme. Thank you. All right.
He's turning gay.
All right. Okay.
The great Vermin Supreme. I need to meet that guy. I need to have him on the show. That needs to happen. But anyway, I kind of feel like this guy, mocking the politicians, does a perfect job of explaining why these politicians are so full of crap. I mean, you can't help but listen to him making a complete fool of himself. He wears a boot for a hat. Like an actual boot. Just a rubber boot on his head. And he's got a crazy mountain man beard. And he goes out there and he talks about free ponies for all Americans, and he says it's going to create jobs because of people shoveling manure and stuff like that. And that's the joke, is that there's all these ridiculous spending programs that are passed off as job programs, and then you've got, people like Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and then Charlie Rangel making these ridiculously stupid comments, and they're actually in Congress. It's no wonder Vermin actually runs and does debates in the New Hampshire primary. If those people can win, why not this guy? I would fully support him as a vice presidential nomination on any ticket in any of the two major parties, just because of the way he mocks other politicians. See, imagine as a president, if you had, let's just say Rand Paul runs, and anytime some Democrat comes out and mocks Rand Paul or Ted Cruz or whoever comes out and mocks the Republican president for doing something wrong, he could just send Vermin out. He could just send Vermin Supreme out to do a press conference and explain how stupid those criticisms are. That being said, he'd probably have plenty of criticisms for the Republican candidates too, specifically gay marriage, stuff like that. But those are changing policies. Those are changing areas in the party. They're coming around. The libertarians are taking over, which is fantastic. I don't care what anybody says. It's about time. And it's unfortunate too, though, because even when you have common sense seeping into one party, when you have great politicians coming out and coming onto the side of freedom and paying attention to liberty and understanding how it works, to sort of combat the Sheila Jackson Lees in there, you've still got moderates in like the Republican Party who are like, I just can't believe there's no place for me here anymore because I actually believe some of this other stuff. Like Warhawk Republicans who think we should spend 50% of the budget on defense, or some of these Republicans that still oppose gay marriage because they don't understand that just because you vote to take somebody's rights away, you can't actually do that in a liberated society. And you get, these people that are in the middle of the road. And I think that's probably part of the reason these idiots can get in, because with the moderates in the middle, the candidates have to appeal to that crazy middle ground, and then that encourages gerrymandering so the candidate can actually be principled and win strongly. Because if Sheila Jackson Lee was in just a square district in the middle of Texas, just a big fat square in Houston somewhere, she would never win. The people in Houston that have sense would not vote for her. She wouldn't have just an impoverished ward voting her in every term. It would never happen. I mean, this is the same lady that camps out in the House of Representatives for 6 hours so she can shake the president's hand and hug him during the State of the Union. I mean, she's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And Rangel, when he comes out and he sounds like this and he looks like Al Sharpton, like a black skeleton with the gray hair, and makes ridiculous statements about how 2 buildings exploding and killing 5 people is somehow comparable to freaking 9/11. It's absolutely unacceptable. And it's unacceptable that these people are allowed to stay in office. If any of you live in a district with somebody like that, or near a district with somebody like that, I hope you will do your part to campaign against them, or at least head over to Sheila Jackson Lee's Facebook page and harass her fans. There's a lot of great Americans who are headed over there. She's only got like 11,000 likes on Facebook. It's not that big. And they harass her, and it's great. We'll be back after a break.
This is Lachlan Marquet of the Washington Free Beacon, and you are listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
The ad says he doesn't have a horse in this race, but Retractor knows he does. Now he's got egg on his face. The donkey's on the left, got owned by a kid. They can say.
And here we are, back again. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something else that's gone viral, which I think is fantastic, and I point out this stuff on the Facebook page and on Twitter all the time. And if you don't follow me on Facebook or Twitter, you need to immediately, like right now. Just pause the show and go do that. Facebook.com/AmericaOurWay or @AmericaOurWay on Twitter. Real easy, real simple. It's just the name. Nobody else has it because I'm original. And I post stuff like this all the time, and pictures and things. I want to talk about Trey Gowdy. Now, Gowdy's one of the guys that's in my intro. I'm sure you've heard the intro music. You still don't understand. This is political. I do a pretty good Trey Gowdy, I think. My impersonation is pretty. I could actually just do the sound clip for you. Just do an impersonation. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you. Okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to play it for you. It's fantastic. So many people are coming out and saying that every American needs to hear it. I agree, so the people that listen to my show are going to hear it.
Mr. Speaker, I want to have a pop quiz. That may seem unfair to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, but I'm going to give them a hint. The answer to every one of the questions is the same. I'm going to read a quote, and then you tell me who said it. These last few years, we've seen an unacceptable abuse of power, having a president whose priority is expanding his own power. Any guess on who said that, Mr. Speaker? It was Senator Barack Obama.
And, of course, now you've got Obama saying that I've got a pen and I've got a phone. And he's going to act without Congress. So, clearly, he does not believe that any longer. The President of the United States should not have this much power. Let me be clear. That is not how the Constitution was set up. But now that I'm president, I think that statement is inaccurate. I disagree. I respect their opinion that the Constitution is awesome. I did teach it for 10 years, but I would just like to say that I'm really smart, and I will run your life for you, and you won't have to worry about a thing. Just pay your taxes, and let me tell you what to do. It'll be fine.
Here's another one. No law can give Congress a backbone if it refuses to stand up as a co-equal branch. The Constitution made it. Senator Barack Obama.
Now, I actually find this one particularly hilarious because it completely contradicts any criticism of Republicans, quote-unquote, obstructing progress. It completely contradicts the notion that saying, no, that's bad, is somehow bad governing policy. If the Republicans in the House are saying, screw you, Mr. President, this is stupid, that is, in and of itself, showing a backbone. That is quintessentially standing up for yourself and what you believe in. When Ted Cruz filibustered and when Ted Cruz helped shut down the government, he was doing exactly that. Having a backbone. Continuing on here.
What do we do with a president who can basically change what Congress passed by attaching a letter saying, I don't agree with this part or that part? Senator Barack Obama.
Oh, wait. Do you mean like he did with the healthcare law? Or did you mean what he talked about doing with minimum wage and with gun control and with marijuana criminalization laws and immigration? Yeah. I think those would all fall into the category just described by that Obama quote. Now, don't get me wrong. I agree that there are some laws that are unjust, but, and Ted Cruz took a lot of flack for this, the president's job is not to decide what laws are unjust. The president's job is to either veto bills he doesn't like or try and get legislation he does like passed. Period. It's not the president's job to decide what to enforce. He takes an oath to faithfully execute the office. That's his job. And for him to come out and say something stupid like he's changing the implementation or something like, no. If Congress writes in deadlines, those deadlines are law. You know, a teacher writes in a deadline and you're like, well, I'm just not going to enforce that deadline. That's not how that works. They made a deadline. It's a law. You have to follow it.
I taught the Constitution for 10 years. I believe in the Constitution. Senator Barack Obama. And my favorite, Mr. Speaker, one of the most important jobs of the Supreme Court is to guard against the encroachment of the executive branch on the power of the other branches. And I think the Chief Justice has been a little too willing and eager to give the President more power than I think the Congress or the Constitution originally intended. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is how in the world can you get before the Supreme Court if you don't have standing? What did the President mean by that when he looked to the Supreme Court to rein in executive overreach? If you don't have standing, how can you possibly get before the Supreme Court? So my question, Mr. Speaker, is what's changed? How does going from being a senator to a president rewrite the Constitution? What's different from when he was a senator?
Now, this one is particularly interesting because when Obama took the Affordable Care Act mandate to the Supreme Court, he was effectively changing the Constitution, or he got the Supreme Court to change the law to make it constitutional. And so it's the Supreme Court overreach giving the president power yet again. We know it for a fact. And here he was as a senator talking about how horrible that was. This president is so incredibly hypocritical. It's mind-numbing. Absolutely mind-numbing. Every time something like this happens, the media should be calling him on it. It is their job. Their job as the press, their mandate as a free press, their purpose in this society is to hold him accountable. And they're not doing it. Not even once.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think there's an amendment to the Constitution that I missed. I try to keep up with those with regularity.
Okay, I'm sorry, but to any of my fans out there that watch South Park, how many think, show of hands, how many think that he sounds just like Mr. Mackey? Okay. I think I keep up with the Constitution pretty regularly, okay? I know what I'm talking about, alright? Drugs are bad, okay? I love Trey Gowdy, but he sounds a little bit like Mr. Mackey. You can never unhear that.
But what I do know is this: process matters. And if you doubt it, Mr. Speaker, ask a prosecutor or a police officer, both of whom, as my friends on the other side of the aisle know, both of them are members of the executive branch. What happens when a police officer fails to check the right box on a search warrant application? The evidence is thrown out, Mr. Speaker, even though he was well-intended, even though he had good motivations, even though he got the evidence, because process matters. What happens, Mr. Speaker, when the police go and get a confession from a defendant? He did it. This is not a whodunit. He admitted he did it. You got the right person for the right crime. But what happens if he doesn't follow the process? The defendant walks free. And the criminal defense attorneys who are now congressmen on the other side of the aisle know that that's exactly what they argued when they were before the judge. Not that the end justifies the means. Don't look at the motivations. Look at the process. Mr. Speaker, we are not a country where the end justifies the means, no matter how good your motivations may be. We all swore an allegiance to the same document that the President swears allegiance to faithfully execute the law. So I will be listening intently during this debate for one of my colleagues to explain to me what that phrase means. What does it mean? Not to execute the law, but when the framers thought enough of that phrase to add the modifier faithfully. What does that mean? And if a president does not faithfully execute the law, Mr. Speaker, what are our remedies? Do we just sit and wait on another election? Do we use the power of the purse, the power of impeachment? Those are punishments. Those are not remedies. The remedy is to do exactly what Barack Obama said to do, to go to court, to go to the Supreme Court, and have the Supreme Court say once and for all, we don't pass suggestions in this body, Mr. Speaker. We don't pass ideas. We pass laws. And we expect them to be faithfully executed.
Such a fantastic speech. See, I love Trey Gowdy, and I cannot understand how he doesn't get more attention from the media. I mean, Ted Cruz gets a lot, Rand Paul gets a lot. Trey Gowdy should be right up there with them. If you don't know who he is, you need to familiarize yourself with him. All right? No, really, though, he is a fantastic politician, one of the few out there, Republican, I believe, from South Carolina. He is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Trey Gowdy is just one of the absolute most conservative people out there. I will say this about him, though. He does have horrible, horrible taste in facial hair. he's grown some pretty gnarly mustaches and goatees that just should never happen. But I mean, that so far is the only thing I really don't like about him, is that he can't wear a mustache and nobody told him that. But if that's the worst I have to say about you, you're doing all right. And he's always going after, people that come into Congress to testify, and he lets them have it. And on top of that, he has no problem telling people how it is. I mean, how many people have you heard get on the House floor and speak with that clarity and speak about liberty in that way? And to speak about the powers of the president and speak about the powers of Congress. You never hear that because the other party is always too concerned with preserving that power when it comes around their time. When it's, the Republican president comes in, they want that power to be preserved so they can do the same thing. It's like people who claim that, Bush did a real great job and everything would be better if we had had Bush again. Look, anytime you have a mainstream conservative or a mainstream Democrat, you're going to have a bad time, okay? That's just the way it is. These people are all authoritarians. It just depends on which direction that pendulum swings. And generally speaking, they're going to do the same thing regardless. I mean, even Republicans were like, we have our own health care proposal, we're going to do something about it too, etc. And it's craziness. What people need to understand is what Trey Gowdy said. Process matters. It matters how you get there. So for all of these people that come out and they say that they just need a majority vote for one thing or the other, process matters. It's not about a majority vote to pass a law to make something change from the way it's being enforced right now. The Constitution's already there, and it guarantees more rights and outlaws certain laws that are already in place. They're unconstitutional. It's just a matter of getting them challenged and getting them to be ruled that direction. And the justices are fallible. The Supreme Court is not full of sages who are capable of divining liberty from this paper that's 227 years old. No. That's not perfect either. But it's the best shot, and it's the correct way to do it. Now, that being said, when the Supreme Court does rule and gut the Constitution, it hurts us. It absolutely hurts us. And so you want to be sure, obviously, and Wayne LaPierre and the NRA did a great job of this back in the 90s with Clinton when the court was more liberal. They didn't challenge gun control laws. Like, they didn't challenge the assault rifle ban that had that sunset clause in it. And for good reason. They didn't challenge it because they didn't want a liberal court to rule it to be constitutional and strip the Second Amendment out. They waited for a more conservative court. And that's the exact correct thing to do. But the point is, when you're talking about things like gay marriage, when you're talking about things like legalization of weed, it's unfortunate to think that we need to pass a law for it when it should be legal in the first place because it violates the Constitution to declare it's not legal. How can the government declare that owning a weapon is illegal? Well, the only way they can confiscate something or declare you're unable to own it or declare that you need a permit to own it or use it in a certain way is to declare that they own it and you don't. That is the only logical way that plays out. We'll have more when we come back.
Hi, this is Larry O'Connor from WMAL in Washington, D.C., and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
All right, we're back. Now, there's been some interesting stuff that the news has glazed over. I heard about it a little bit today, and I could not find it anywhere. Excuse me, heard about it yesterday, and I couldn't find it anywhere to view it legibly, to view it closely enough to spread it around. But I've had a look since I first heard it, and now I can confirm it. The Department of Health and Human Services has extended the Obamacare mandate. People who have had their insurance canceled, they're not going to be punished for not having insurance if they don't have it right now, if it was canceled, until after the midterms, until after the president is out of office. The Democrats have pushed the deadline on Obamacare to snap into place after an election. Imagine that. While we're sitting here talking about it, why don't we take a closer look at the healthcare law? And rather than sit here and bore you with all of these ridiculous in-depth analysis of what the law says and et cetera, because it really doesn't matter what the law says. Obama's going to change it anyway. I'd rather just let him tell you for himself what is supposed to be in that law. Now, I want to tell you, he is referring to Hillary Clinton. This is a soundbite from a Hillary-Obama debate on MSNBC.
The reason she thinks that there are more people covered under her plan than mine is because of a mandate. That is not a mandate for the government to provide coverage to everybody. It is a mandate that every individual purchase health care. And the mailing that we put out accurately indicates that the main difference between Senator Clinton's plan and mine is the fact that she would force, in some fashion, individuals to purchase health care.
Whoa. Back that train way up. He is criticizing Hillary Clinton for putting a mandate that requires people to purchase health insurance in the health care plan. What? Isn't that exactly what Republicans are criticizing him for? He has a mandate too. It's just too delicious to make up, folks. He said it, you heard it right here. Let's continue on with the rest of the crap that flowed out of his mouth.
If it was not affordable, she would still presumably force them to have it unless there is a hardship exemption, as they've done in Massachusetts, which leaves 20% of the uninsured out. And if that's the case, then, in fact, her claim that she covers everybody is not accurate.
Oh, but how's she going to enforce it? How is she going to force all those people to buy insurance? Because that's what her law says. How many of you know how he's figured that out? Obviously, he figured it out. Because in Obamacare, they take a percentage of your income. They cut off your income. Like 1 or 2% of your income. They take it if you refuse to buy health insurance. Absolutely insane. He sat there, criticized her for it, and he went and did it himself.
Now, Senator Clinton has not indicated how she would enforce this mandate. The fact of the matter is that if, as we've heard tonight, we still don't know how Senator Clinton intends to enforce a mandate, and if we don't know the level of subsidies that she's going to provide, then you can have a situation, which we're seeing right now in the state of Massachusetts, where people are being fined for not having purchased health care, but choose to accept the fine because they still can't afford it even with the subsidies. And they are then worse off. They then have no health care and are paying a fine above and beyond that. That is a genuine difference between myself and Senator Clinton.
A genuine difference? Because from where I'm sitting, that is exactly what's happening. He criticized Clinton for doing exactly this. And now, for some reason, because he's the one doing it, that's okay. Because he's the one with the mandate, it's not a big deal anymore. Because he's the one leaving people worse off, paying a fine and not having health insurance, that somehow makes it okay. He needs to be held accountable for that one. And it blows my mind that every single time a microphone is put in front of him by a journalist, he's not asked that question. Why was he not asked that question when the law was being implemented? When everybody heard about the mandate, when the Supreme Court case was going on, why was this skimmed over? Why was this not brought to him repeatedly? If it was bad before, why is it not bad now, Mr. President? He couldn't answer that question. He would have no way to answer it.
On the point of many adults, we don't want to put in a situation in which on the front end we are mandating them, we are forcing them to purchase insurance, and if the subsidies are inadequate, the burden is on them and they will be penalized. And that is what Senator Clinton's plan does.
No, Mr. President, that is what your plan does. It's exactly what your plan does. And it's disgusting to look back at what he said, what he criticized Clinton's plan for, and to see that he adopted that into his own plan. It's absolutely crazy. And I for one, cannot understand why this isn't being blared on every channel. Why is this not something that is confronting the White House at every turn? They should not be able to get a sentence out on any issue with this thought circulating around. With this sound, this clip of the president in his own words criticizing something he put in his own plan. Why is this not all over the place? But you know what? To me, this wasn't even the worst part. I've got more that is even worse than that. Now, originally, Obama's plan was to use a government program to get insurance as a free market solution. He was saying that if we make it good enough, people will come and they will buy it because it's affordable. Check it out.
It has to do with how we are going to achieve universal health care. That is an area where I believe that if we make it affordable, people will purchase it. In fact, Medicare Part B is not mandated. It is voluntary, and yet people over 65 choose to purchase it, Hillary. And the reason they choose to purchase it is because it's a good deal. And if people in Cleveland or anywhere in Ohio end up seeing a plan that is affordable for them, I promise you they are snatching it up because they are desperate to get health care.
Now see, that idea makes sense. Leave it up to the free market. He'll do his part, and the free market will take care of the rest. If people really want that health care, they want that health insurance, they'll buy it. But that's not what the president did. That's not what's in this plan. That's not what happened. In fact, he took Hillary's plan exactly. And it just kind of solidifies this whole argument that it doesn't matter who you elect because they're going to do the same things anyway. I mean, that's exactly what's happened with Obamacare. It didn't matter which Democrat won. It was Hillary's plan that was implemented. And what's worse is that both Hillary and Obama want the single payer. that's in the Democrat platform. It's always been in the Democrat platform. And I have to say, I think it's absolutely terrible that you can get away with saying stuff like this and not be confronted by it at every turn. Now, you may wonder, what good does it do now? But let me tell you, Hillary Clinton's going to be running. I guarantee you she will run again, and I guarantee you she'll win the Democrat nomination. These are the things we need to use against her. And guess what? I've got even more here that we're going to go through tonight. I want to talk about what else Hillary said in this debate. I want to talk about things being voluntary. Listen in.
And in fact, it would be as though Franklin Roosevelt said, let's make Social Security voluntary. Let's let everybody get in it if they can afford it. Or President Johnson said, let's make Medicare voluntary.
Well, hell yeah. Those programs ought to be voluntary. It's absolutely crazy that in our society, I have to pay out huge chunks of my income to the federal government when I could use that stuff. I could really use that money to pay bills, to go out, have a good time, put that money back into the local economy. And it would be better for the entire country if it was that way. If you had huge chunks of income not coming out from people who don't have much, they'd all be better off. And more importantly, what right does the government have to take that money for those programs? The idea is, if we don't force them to do it, they won't do it. Of course we won't do it. It's a bad freaking idea. Let's keep listening.
What we have said is that at the point of employment, at the point of contact with various government agencies, we would have people signed up. It's like when you get a 401k at your employer, the employer automatically enrolls you. You would be enrolled.
As if somehow it's okay or better to be enrolled at the point of employment. As if somehow it's a smart idea to force everybody into this just because they have a freaking job. Because they are trying to make a living. Because they are trying to achieve the American dream. Pursue happiness. We need to force them at that point. Now let me tell you, if your company tried to force you to invest all of your stocks in that company, that's a bad 401k. I would opt out of that. That's really freaking dumb. I would rather put my money, my investment, my retirement into what I want to put it into. Now, if I work for a good, strong company that matches, up to 15% on the dollar, then, if I pay 15%, then they throw in another 15%, they match it, whatever. If they were matching what I put into my 401k and the business was a good business, a good investment, something like Exxon that I knew was going to do well, period, then yeah, that's a good idea, but I want the choice. I want the choice. I don't want to be forced into buying stocks in a company that sucks. I don't want to be forced to pay into a 401k with a business that's awful or has a bad investment firm working for them. And I sure as hell don't want the government telling me what I need to do with my paycheck. I'll pay my rent, I'll put gas in my car, and I'll put food in my fridge, and the rest of what I do with it is none of your damn business. By what right do they tell you what to do with your income? Do you know what they call it when you don't have control of your own income? They call it slavery. It's called slavery when you don't have control of your own income, the fruits of your own labor. But we already know that that's not what the Democrats care about. They don't care about freedom. They don't care about you doing what's best for you. They don't even think that you know what is best for you. They don't think that if you need health insurance, you'll go out and get it if you need it. They think every American needs it, and those that don't need it to help the rest of the Americans that do. Don't believe me? Let's check it out, hear it for ourselves.
That attack goes right to the heart of whether or not we will be able to achieve universal health care. That's a core Democratic Party value. It's something that ever since Harry Truman we have stood for. And what I find regrettable is that in Senator Obama's mailing that he has sent out across Ohio, it is almost as though the health insurance companies and the Republicans wrote it.
That's because Obama's original plan was a free market plan. The government would provide insurance, or at least the access to insurance, that was so good, people would buy it of their own free will. Heaven freaking forbid. But no, that is not what we have now. What we have now is a system that forces every American to buy it, to pay for other Americans who need it, or want it, or just are forced to get it, even though they're not paying for it, getting it free from the government. And quite frankly, that is a progressive healthcare system that penalizes the wealthy and the successful, and by wealthy I mean middle class, able to pay your bills. The people who can't afford healthcare are being punished because there are people in this country who can't. You're right, it's not as horrible as them taxing us all to the hilt and just giving everyone the same healthcare like they do in Canada or Britain, but it is tantamount to the same thing. It is a semantical argument. The way we got there matters, but the result in this case is the same, and both processes are wrong.
This is Guy Benson from townhall.com and Fox News, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
All right, so we've been talking about how healthcare is leading up to single payer. We've talked about how Obama is a massive hypocrite, which I probably didn't need to tell you, but it's always good to point out specific examples. And we've talked about how the Democrats don't really care about getting things done in the name of freedom. They claim to be the party of freedom, the party of the people, the party of the working man, the party of women, of minorities, of the smallest minority on earth is the individual. And the Democrats seek to limit more individual rights than any other group on the planet, except for maybe the Ku Klux Klan. But even then, they're being more liberty-minded than the Democrats these days. Believe it or not. Not that I am advocating them in any way, shape, or form, but the Democrats these days, they're not even trying to hide their socialism anymore. They're not even trying to hide their evil authoritarian agenda. They're not even trying to hide the fact that they want to run your life for you. They're not even trying to hide it. Let's take a listen here to Ayn Rand. I want to show you what I think about collectivism, and I want you to get an idea from an expert. Ayn Rand, the philosopher, author of Atlas Shrugged. I talk about her every week, and I'm going to play her for you now. I want everyone on the planet to be more exposed to her and her work, because it, quite frankly, is brilliant. And so take a listen.
How do you feel about the political trends of the United States, the Western world?
The way everybody feels, except more consciously. I feel that it is terrible, that you see destruction all around you, and that you are moving toward disaster until and unless all those welfare state conceptions have been reversed and rejected. It is precisely these trends which are bringing the world to disaster, because we are now moving towards complete collectivism or socialism, a system under which everybody is enslaved to everybody. And we are moving that way only because of our altruist morality.
That last word was a little clipped. She said morality. Now, she's exactly right. And what's even crazier, she saw this over half a century ago. This was, 50s, 60s when she made all of her predictions, even into the 40s. Ayn Rand grew up in Soviet Russia. She saw the rise of communism and got out of Dodge. She moved to America to become a writer after completing college in Russia. And Ayn Rand came up with the philosophy of objectivism. It's a way to live your life in this world based on reason and self-interest and capitalism. It rejects the idea that you are your brother's keeper. It rejects the idea that you have to sacrifice yourself or are bound somehow to another person and their well-being. Now, obviously, there are instances of, parents taking care of children where it is in their self-interest to take care of those children. Even if they don't know it, it is. For instance, they get old someday and they need somebody to take care of them. Who's going to do it? That'd be the kids, etc. But the point is, she saw the welfare state policies, she saw the socialism coming way before anyone else ever did. She saw it coming years and years and years ago. Now, there's a reason why you see Ayn Rand's work as listed at the top of everyone who is, pro-capitalism, pro-individual liberty. The people that just want to run their own lives. Generally speaking, most of them have read her work, and they back it up. Now, a lot of people have problems and criticisms of her work, and I can see that. I mean, she was very anti-religion, and it's understandable. She, she finds faith to be evil, because not, your personal faith, but believing anything without objective proof. So, as a Christian, obviously you can hold it in your self-interest to believe in your faith if you want to go that route. I'm not here to talk about that. That's not me. That's you guys. I try to avoid religion here. That's all on you. Your religion is your own. But the point is, her policies, her philosophy, her ideas were the perfect weapon against the collectivist state. Her ideas are the perfect weapon, the perfect philosophy, the perfect way to argue against the Democrats. And it's also, consequently, the perfect way to argue against the neocons and the rhinos. The perfect argument against people who want to tell you how you need to live your life. It completely obliterates the welfare state arguments. It completely obliterates arguments against gay marriage, against the criminalization of weed, stuff like that. I mean, Ayn Rand was vehemently against smoking dope. She flat out said, it makes you stupid and you're stupid to do it. But she respected people's rights to make their own decisions. I mean, Ayn Rand was also very anti-promiscuity. She was anti-slut. Ayn Rand said flat out that if you're a tramp, you're an idiot, because indulging in sexual promiscuity shows a lack of self-esteem. So, a lot of these arguments that people make against libertarianism as somehow being devoid of morality and things like that, it's just not there in this case. It's not there when it comes to Ayn Rand. And I think that her arguments are great for every conservative, for every libertarian, for anybody that is pro-liberty. And I want to show you a little bit more. I want to show you what she had to say on democracy, because I think that's incredibly important.
Yes, but you say everybody is enslaved to everybody, yet this came about democratically, Ayn. Free people in a free country voted for this kind of government, wanted this kind of legislation. Do you object to the democratic process?
I object to the idea that people have the right to vote on everything. The traditional American system was a system based on the idea that majority will prevailed only in public or political affairs, and that it was limited by inalienable individual rights. Therefore, I do not believe that a majority can vote a man's life or property or freedom away from him. Therefore, I do not believe that if a majority votes on any issue, that this makes the issue right. It doesn't.
Now, see, that's the argument that a lot of conservatives make against gay marriage or against for liquor laws, the blue laws. It's the same argument that people make for drug laws. They're like, if these hippie states want to have drugs, let them. They'll dumb themselves down and kill themselves off. Or, if people in a town don't want liquor stores open past a certain hour, that's their right. Or, You know, if people don't want strip clubs in their town, then that's their right to vote on it. Here's the thing. You don't have the right to vote to take somebody's property away. I mean, let's say everyone in your town wants to put a road through your house. Let's say your house is just the perfect middle of the street, and there's a street behind yours and in front of yours, in front of your house, and everybody's just real tired of the traffic, and they want to, be able to cut through your yard to get there. But you don't want to put a road through your yard. You don't want to have to destroy your garage to make room for a road because your neighbors want one. Do your neighbors have the right to vote and put a road where your garage is? Do they have a right to destroy your house and put a road there? Do they have the right to force you to sell your house and your property to the government so they can put a road there? I think most of you will say, hell no, they don't have a right. Does the government have a right to force you to sell your car because they don't like it? That's a big old truck. Looks like it guzzles lots of gas. We're going to need you to sell that because it pollutes the environment and get a Toyota Prius. Do you think that the neighbors should be able to vote to force you to sell your truck and get a Toyota Prius? Hell no, they don't. And this is exactly why it matters. It's just like Winston Churchill says. Democracy is the absolute worst political system except for all the other ones. And that's the way it is. And that's what our founders knew. Our founders knew that democracy was a horrible system except for all the others. And that's why they put this rule book in place. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called the Constitution. They set that up to prevent people from infringing on people's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, their right to life. Now, your right to life extends into your right to property, because you can't have right to your own life if you can't own property. Okay? And the idea that you can vote on how somebody lives their life, on what somebody does with their property, on what voluntary contracts a person enters into, is insane. If somebody wants to smoke a cigarette even though it gives them cancer, that's their right. If somebody wants to eat 20,000 calories a day, just double fisting, double bacon cheeseburgers all day, every day, and drinking 64-ounce sodas in between, that's their right. Their right to become a glorious fat blob and die at the age of 35. They have the right to do it, and it's a beautiful thing. It's not the smart thing to do, but it's their right to do it. And quite frankly, it's sad that we live in a country with a constitution as awesome as it is that gets stepped on completely.
All right, then how do we arrive at action? How should we arrive at action?
By voluntary consent, voluntary cooperation of free men, unforced.
And how do our leaders arrive? How do we arrive at our leadership? Who elects? Who appoints?
The whole people elects. There is nothing wrong with the democratic process in politics. We arrive at it the way we arrived by the American Constitution as it used to be. By the constitutional process as we had it, people elect officials, but the powers of those officials, the powers of government are strictly limited. They will have no right to initiate force or compulsion against any citizen except a criminal. Those who have initiated force will be punished by force, and that is the only proper function of government. What we would not permit is the government to initiate force against people who have hurt no one, who have not forced anyone. We would not give the government or the majority or any minority the right to take the life or the property of others. That was the original American system.
Now, how many of you agree 100% with that? The original American system was that nobody has the right to take away the life, the property, the freedom of another individual. I'd say everybody agrees with that, except for the Democrats. And even then, they'll say that they do. But if you explain to them why it's wrong, you explain to them logically with these arguments how it's a use of force to institute some of their policies, like the Obamacare fine, because they're going to come to your door, kick it down, and take your butt to jail if you don't pay your Obamacare fine, because it's going to be filed through your taxes. And what happens if you don't pay your taxes? They take it right out of your freaking paycheck. You know it. I know it. The fact of the matter is, people don't understand that. People these days think that they can just vote for whatever policy they want, or they can vote for a politician who supports whatever policy they want, and if that politician wins and is elected, then whatever it was they supported must be correct. They must have the right to do it. It's absolutely insane. And you know what? When it comes to economics, the same applies. Absolutely the same applies. You can't affect people in this way. You can't put a gun to somebody's head and tell them they have to buy something. You can't put a gun to somebody's head and tell them that they're not allowed to purchase a product, that they're not allowed to make a deal to trade with somebody. And that's what marriage is. Marriage is a contract that somebody else owns half your stuff, has permission to make your health decisions, all that. You can't outlaw a plant that grows in the ground, one that could potentially save, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people with seizure disorders from a lot of pain and discomfort. If you know someone that has epilepsy or another seizure disorder, you should be 100% for the legalization of marijuana, because that person's life would be immensely better. Because there's CBD in marijuana that helps slow down the electrical activity in the brain that causes seizures. It's not about getting high. It's about medicine. I mean, if you that's your bag, you want to get high, that's fine. All right, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Be sure to check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/America Our Way. Follow me on Twitter @America Our Way. We'll see you next time.
Jesus told me to make Randall Terry gay with magic sprinkle dust.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Supreme. Thank you. All right.
He's turning gay.
All right. Okay.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.